men, haven't you ever wanted to get in touch with your masculine side? To get in touch with your inner caveman and engage in some healthy pillaging, or maybe even invade a small country? Well, today's speaker has a solution for you, fortunately. A solution that won't have you landing in some third world jail. Sharing a message of today, how you can man up. Please join me in welcoming Jeffrey Purtee. Man up, Jeffrey Purtee.
Gentlemen, have you ever wanted to get in touch with your feminine side? Do you know the difference between the colors fuchsia, mauve, and heaven forbid, periwinkle? Worse, is your idea of a perfect evening curling up on the couch and watching Barbara Hershey and Bette Midler prattle on endlessly for 2 hours about their feelings in the movie Beaches? Well, if that's true, I'm here to share a message with you, and that message is, it is time to man up, for heaven's sakes. Now, in order to man up, you could, for example, pursue manly arts. You could go ahead and invade a small tin-pot third world country. You could visit South Central Los Angeles and decide to mediate between the latest fight between the Bloods and the Crips in the gang wars. You could, if you so desire, even do the same thing in some of our dicier neighborhoods. But all of those potential solutions have a downside. You could get hurt. Do you want that? No, of course you don't. So I'm here to share with you a possible solution to your desire to man up that involves no physical pain on your part. And that solution is man fiction. Yes, man fiction. You can think of man fiction as something, well, let's just think of it as the opposite of the Oprah Winfrey Book Club. These are books where nobody talks about their feelings. These are books where lots of things get blown up. These are books that live by the credo, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Now, you have a handout in front of you. I'm going to explain to you 3 of my favorite man fiction authors so that you too can enjoy the pleasures of man fiction. Starting with Michael Connelly. Michael Connelly writes a series about a Los Angeles police detective named Harry Bosch. Harry Bosch is an interesting gentleman because he spends as much time fighting the LA bureaucracy as he does fighting the bad guys. He's always on the side of right, he's always on the side of justice, he's always on the side of truth in the American way. And the author, Michael Connelly, is also an interesting gentleman. He actually got his start as a newspaper reporter in South Florida, right during the cocaine wars of the 1980s and late 1970s, when you couldn't pick up a newspaper in Miami without some drug war happening again. So he knows from wherever he speaks when he writes this, he understands the underbelly of both the police department, both the good parts and the corrupt parts, and he writes some absolutely snappy short dialogue based upon his years, I suspect, as a beat reporter for the Miami Herald Tribune. Wonderful, wonderful series. I recommend Michael Connelly if you like police fiction. My second one, Robert Crace. Robert Crace writes a series about a private detective named Elvis Cole who has a sidekick, if you will, or partner, Joe Pike. The interesting thing about this is, if the art of being a manly man is to speak few words, do lots of action, Elvis Cole is practically the definition of that. He doesn't speak a whole lot. When he does, it counts. However, what I really love about it is his partner, Joe Pike, a former Marine. If Elvis Cole could be called taciturn, I think you would call Joe Pike pretty much, mute. He hardly ever speaks because you don't have time to speak when you are spending all your time administering a big heap and helping a whoop-ass to the bad guys. And that's his role. Interesting thing about the author Robert Crace, he's actually a lifetime, more or less, scriptwriter. Some of you may recall series like Hill Street Blues, Rockford Files, great TV series, wonderful dialogue, kind of delving into the underside, he was actually a screenwriter for those and many other TV series. Writes wonderful, wonderful books. Finally, I've saved my best for last. Lee Child, a British author who grew up on the fiction of 007. He writes a series on a former American military policeman, Jack Reacher. Now let me ask you a question. You come into a small town. You decide to have breakfast. You sit down and have breakfast. What's going to happen to most of us? Well, you're going to finish your breakfast. You're going to pay your bill. You're going to get up and you're going to leave, and then you're going to move on, right? Not to Jack Reacher. Oh no. The same thing happens to Jack Reacher, and for no apparent reason, the entire police force descend on him and arrest him, just having wandered into town. And therein embarks yet another adventure where Jack Reacher single-handedly saves the town from a corrupt police force and corrupt politicians. That is the kind of adventure we guys, we man always dream of, with the possible downside of getting hurt if you're trying to do something like that. Jack Reacher wanders from town to town because he's now retired military. He's living off of his savings. He shows up in town much like Gary Cooper in High Noon, a man's man, willing to do right, save the damsel in distress. If you choose no other author from this list, I highly recommend Lee Child, the Jack Reacher series. Little side note, by the way, I've been wondering how long it would take to film this, because these are such great action novels. I think this is great. Well, it turns out Tom Cruise bought the rights to it, and sometime at the end of this year is going to come the first Jack Reacher movie. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope they don't make a mess of it. Gentlemen, and even ladies, have you ever wanted to get in touch with your manly side? Have you ever wanted to feel the testosterone course through your veins? If you have, don't go out there and hurt yourself. Read some man fiction. Madam Toastmaster.